Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Uncle Matt's Cookery Lessons. Today I'm going to be making a variation of the classic pork pie by adding cranberries to it. Hi, I'm going to be making a type of pork pie, but it's going to be an open pork pie without a pastry top, because the top is going to be cranberries, so it's very seasonal. You might want to have this for Christmas. If you go into a deli counter somewhere in the UK, you're most likely to see something like this. So I've got some pork, I've got some bacon, I'm going to add a little bit of chicken in this. You can use turkey, but the pastry is what makes this. In my channel in the past, I've made pork pies, I've also made gala pies, so it's all based on that type of food. Absolutely gorgeous, and I think you're going to really like this one. Right, this is quite a technical dish, lots and lots to do. That's my tart case, there's the dimensions of it. I've had that in the fridge, and that is some extra to the recipe. Lard that I've melted, but you could use, just rub it with a bit of oil or something, but that's to help the pie come out later. That is going to go back in the fridge, but I'm also going to add a little disc of paper or parchment to it. If you saw my last video, you saw me doing this. Yeah, doing it again really, but you know, for those that haven't seen it before, we fold in half and then in half again, and then sort of fold once you've got the centre bit, make it into more of a cone shape like that, put the pointy bit in the middle, and then to the outside that will be the dimensions of your disc, and just sort of take a minute to smooth that out into there. That's going to go back into the fridge. Now for the pastry, it's so simple to make these hot water pastries. That is lard and that was water. The full recipe will be on my website, and the link to the website will be in the description. But it's unclematscookerylessons.com. There you go. Couldn't be easier. Sifting the flour with the salt, making a little well in the middle. That has melted now, the lard. That is an unhealthy mixture going in there. Look at that. Yeah. And then very carefully start stirring, because obviously that's some rather hot liquid there. You don't want to get that on you. And then once you've got it coming together, it's going to form a dough, but it's going to be a warm dough. So it's a lot easier than faffing around with crumbing butter into pastry, into flour with your thumbs and fingers. There you go. So just sort of take a minute or two, bring it together. And then I'm just going to work it on the work surface. Just no more than a minute, really. You don't want to overwork this, just so it really comes together. It feels smooth. And then what's very important is to wrap this. Do not leave it uncovered. It sort of dries and gets a crust quite quickly. So wrap it in a bit of cling film. And now we're going to roll it out. And it's ideal to roll it when it's still ever so slightly warm. If it gets cold, it becomes harder to work with. So there we go. I've got two cameras working here. So this is my old camcorder. So it looks a bit different, obviously, than my new fancy camera. But there you go, giving you a decent bird's eye view of rolling this pastry out. You're going to have to use plenty of flour. Keep it rolling, keep it turning as you roll it. Ideally, the sort of the thickness of the pastry you're looking for would be between 1 centimetre and half a centimetre. I suppose that's a quarter of an inch, maybe. I'm not very good on doing that translation, I'm afraid. But I'm not going to go too much thinner than that. We're about there. Just basically put your case on there. Make sure there's plenty of space for it to come up the sides, because that is quite a deep case I'm using here. And also have a little bit of overlap. So that's how we're going to get it in there. And do take a minute here. I say this every time I'm doing pastry, to make sure that you get all of the dough right into the corners, because otherwise it will tear when it cooks and you'll get holes, and that's not good. So that's now nicely done. Pop that back in the fridge. Now we're going to work on the filling. So it's a pork pie, so you'd imagine there'd be quite a bit of pork in it. So I've got some smoky bacon here, and I'm just dicing everything. If you have a mincer attachment, a grinder, whatever you want to call that, by all means use it, but do set it on the largest setting. And then my other bit of advice to you would be to make sure all your meat is really well chilled before doing it, or even pop it in the freezer for like 10-15 minutes. So the bacon was done. I'm going for sort of just small dice, chopping it up. This is pork shoulder. I'm just sort of butterflying those out to make them a bit thinner, and then just slicing one way. Make sure you've got a nice sharp knife, and then turn it on the other way and cut against it, so we got some nice small dices of pork shoulder. Pork belly would be very nice as well. I'm using some already minced or ground pork in this recipe, which was, has got some fat in it as well. So you do need some fat in this recipe. There goes the mince. And then just with my hands, I'm going to work that in there. So we've got the shoulder, the mince, and the bacon. This is some chicken I'm using. Now, this isn't going to be mixed in with it. This is going to provide another layer inside, halfway up the pie. But you could just mix it all in together. It depends on how you want it to look. And again, just a bit larger dice with the chicken. And of course, turkey would make it a little bit more festive, a bit more seasonal. And I'm adding some herbs into it. So I've got some flat leaf parsley. That's going in there now. And then I've got some thyme, and I'm just sort of picking that off of the stems. So it'll take a while to do that. And you are going to need quite a lot of seasoning in this. So I'm editing that out a bit. I put quite a lot of salt and quite a lot of pepper in there, giving it a good mixture. And then we want to taste it. So I've got a frying pan behind me with a little bit of oil in it, just taking a little bit, squishing it down, putting it on my board. Now, if you really want to taste this accurately, you let that get cold, because hot food will taste more seasoned than chilled food. So you have to, if you're tasting it when it's warm, it has to be a little bit too seasoned, a little bit over the top with the seasoning, if that helps. And of course, at this stage, you could add some spices, some allspice, some nutmeg, anything you want to your mixture. But I'm happy with that very well seasoned pork mixture. And I'm putting half of it into the pastry case. And now I swapped the spoon for a fork, because the fork's got the prongs on the fork help air pockets escape when you push it down, because we don't want any air pockets in there. And now the layer of the chicken is going on. And again, just with the fork, take your time with this. It's quite therapeutic, I find, doing work like this. It's very nice. It is very technical. You do have to sort of follow each step. You have to stop and think what you're doing at all times, especially if you don't do this very often like me. And there we go. We've got our final layer of meat on top. And because this hasn't got a pastry top on it, I do not want the meat to brown too much. So I'm covering that with a bit of foil. I've got the oven preheated. In it goes. And that was to say, I checked every now and again. I checked after an hour. It wasn't warm enough. We're looking for a nice, safe meat temperature of at least 80. Now, I've just sort of almost paused the screen there. It was over 80, it was about 81. I'm just showing you there. And obviously, the conversion in the States, you want it to be at least like 165, 170, something like that. And that is my chicken stock. So obviously, if you have a shop-bought chicken stock, or you've got a chicken stock that's not as jellified as that, because I reduced mine heavily, add a leaf of gelatine or a teaspoon of gelatine powder to it, because you really need that jelly. Now, the meat has already created some jelly as well, so this is just going to mix into it. And I did end up using the lot. I'd sort of push it down a bit. It found its way through a bit, and then I just kept adding it. And then that went in the fridge. And this is the next day. So my pork pie has been sitting in the fridge, that jelly setting firmly through it. And here is the topping. So I've got some cranberries and some red currant jelly, which I'm just going to bring to a simmer and stir it over heat, and just sort of let the cranberries sort of break down a bit, let them pop and blister, start to form, I suppose, what you might call a compote. And some of them have gone all mushy, some of them are still holding their form, and I think that's a nice point. Let's have a look now. Yeah, it's almost sort of jammy, isn't it? So definitely ready. Get it off the heat at that stage. And you can see the how much the gelatine, the jelly, the stock has set as well. And just, dump your cranberries
on the top. Take a minute to even them out, spread them out like that, get them in the corners. If you've got a bit of juice collecting, sort of scoop that up and pop that back in the fridge for at least a few hours to really set. Now, can't wait any longer. Let's just trim off the overlap from the pastry, going round and round to get it out of the tart case. An upturned bowl or a few cans of tomatoes or beans or something will work just as well. Obviously, that was a loose bottomed tart case. I think that's quite important to use a loose bottom one. You'll find it very difficult to get out if you don't have one of those. And then I'm just removing the base. Come away nice and easy, no sticking. Fantastic, very happy with that. That baking parchment did the trick as well. Let's cut the slice, shall we? Oh, the moment of truth as he cuts in. Oh, is it going to hold it properly? Is it nicely set? You know, is it going to come out? Is it going to look nice? Oh, God, is it going to look like a dog's dinner? All these things go through your head, you know, because you've put a lot of time and effort into this. Very delicately get it out and have a look at, yay! It looks great. Look at that. And even the jelly has been sort of dyed by the cranberries. And see, isn't it nice there? Yes, let's have a little cut there. I couldn't be happier, really. Absolutely delighted with it. And I'm going to hand you over to me for the tasting.
Okay. So how is my Christmas style or winter style pork and chicken pie with cranberries? Right. Do you remember what I was doing there? So I've already had a little taste. It's very nice. The pastry. I love that hot water pastry. It's so different, and it's actually quite easy to work with. Probably easier to make than the other pastry because you haven't got to do work with your hands. You just add the hot water and lard to the flour and stir it. That's great. Okay, so all in all, it's a very technical dish. It's not easy to make. You've got to do everything right. You've got to follow the method, but very rewarding. And if you tell people you made it yourself, they may not believe you. But hopefully it looks rustic enough, like mine does, that they go, oh yeah, it doesn't look factory made. Anyway. That is wonderful. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video. Come real soon. Bye.